Everyone got a drink? Yeah, queue at the bar. Feel free to go and get another drink. I'd like to also acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. Supporting and empowering Aboriginal communities is actually a key focus of community energy. We are in the midst of a renewables revolution around the world, and it's pretty exciting. We have, for the first time, I think, business and money on the same side as environmental good, and I think through community energy, social good. It's a fairly unusual set of confluence or occurrences that makes me really excited and hopeful for the future. But I'm here today to talk about what is community energy. Anyone here who's never heard of the term community energy before they got this invite? Yep, okay. You're not alone. Community energy is not something that's widely known around Australia. It is something that's actually fairly widely known around the world, though. It's something that is talked a lot about in the US, in Europe, where community energy has its foundations. It's known a lot. In Japan, in the prefecture of Fukushima, where there was the nuclear accident, they've now seen 25 community energy projects being established since that nuclear accident. So this is not something that's just a part of the Anglo world, it's also part of the diverse international community. So what is community energy? Well, we coined a phrase, a definition. Community energy is where communities come together to develop, deliver and benefit from clean energy. And that could be renewable energy sources like solar and wind, or it could be energy efficiency programs. It could also be even owning the poles and wires or the retailing. So we've in Australia seen the first community-owned retailer set up just a year and a half ago in Enova. That's based on the Northern Rivers. So community energy in Australia, it started really back in the sort of mid to late 2000s when solar was just starting to become... Can people hear me? I'm going to... That's better. I like walking around. Started happening a lot when solar was starting to get a bit of interest. And I don't know if you know, but we've gone from about... maybe a couple of thousand households having solar on their roof about 15 years ago to now more than 1.6 million households having solar on their roof. The early days of that was actually as a result of community energy groups. Communities came together because the cost of installing solar was pretty high still, and they banded together, groups of hundreds of households, and they did what we call a bulk buy. And they reduced the costs for everyone by collectively coming together and saying, will you do us a better deal if you can install 100 households at once? And so there was about 10 to 15 communities across Australia that did that. And then they decided, well, that's good, but now we want to get a bit more sophisticated. So in 2011, the first 2 community-owned wind farms started operating. So Hepburn Wind, anyone heard of Hepburn Wind? All right. Yay, 3 people. Hepburn Wind is based in Daylesford. Anyone been to Hepburn Springs or Daylesford? Beautiful place in central Victoria. Too many yuppies. Well, they've done some good stuff. They've got, what they've built is 2 turbines. The school kids have named them Gusto and Gale. It's owned by a cooperative of 2,000 people, and the majority of those people are local to that community. So every year they generate more electricity than that local community needs. It's connected to the grid, but they're the closest source of generation, so it does actually basically power that town. Over in Denmark, in Western Australia, anyone know that we had a town called Denmark in Australia? Yeah? Another hippie community. Well, they built Australia's second community wind farm, started operating about 6 months later. It's 2 turbines as well. And it was actually built off a campaign run by the community to reduce their power demand because they're at the edge of a grid. And they were experiencing blackouts over Easter, and they went, well, we've got to do something about that. So they reduced their demand through energy efficiency, and they went, well, we want to do more than that. And now they've created the second community-owned wind farm. Cut to 2017, there are now more than 90 communities developing innovative local energy projects, and there are more than 70 operating community energy projects, and we're going to hear from Tom and Nigel about just one of those in Pingalla here in Sydney. But this is not a movement that's just based here in Australia. Like I said, it's around the world. In 2010, I went and visited community energy groups across Europe, and I just wanted to tell you about a couple of them because I thought they were really inspiring. So in Scotland, there are now more than 500 megawatts of community-owned renewables installed. If you think about a normal solar system on a household, it's probably about 2 or 3 kilowatts. A megawatt is 1,000 times more than that. 500 megawatts is 500 times, is 100 times more than that again. So pretty large amount of renewables is installed and owned by communities across Scotland. My favourite one is a little island called the Isle of Egg. The Isle of Egg, you have to go over the Harry Potter bridge to get to the Isle of Egg. It's a community of just about 90 people. It's off the grid, quite a poor community, a lot of rural poor people farming, but also very beautiful. They get a lot of walkers and things like that. So they were mainly running off diesel, and diesel prices were going up, and their income wasn't going up, so things were getting a bit dire. So a retired high school science teacher who, for some reason, was a complete climate skeptic, said, we need to do something about this. It's not for climate change reasons, but for the reasons that my community is dying. We need to build an affordable energy system. And so they went about doing that, and now they have 30 kilowatts of solar, 24 kilowatts of wind, and 100 kilowatts of hydro, micro hydro, so not large scale, dam destroying, forest destroying hydro, but really appropriate scaled hydro, that powers their community through a community managed microgrid that's backed up by batteries, and they are now 98% renewable self-sufficient. And their power bills are about a half to a third of what they were paying before. So I think one of the things that I want to say about the community energy movement is that there are different reasons that people are involved. I'm involved because I care that our planet is burning, and I want us to create solutions that are not just good for the planet, but good for the people on it. I want to see us decarbonise, decentralise, and democratise our energy system. And people are doing that. But some people are in it because they care about their community, and they want to do something that benefits the local economy, creates connection, and builds the resilience, both technically but also socially within that community. And so that's one of the really exciting things that we see in these 90 plus communities across Australia, is that they are bringing together some really unusual suspects. People who haven't been involved in the environment movement or the lefty movement coming together with people who've been stalwarts of those movements for years. And I think one of the things that is really interesting is that we're starting to see an intersection of social movements. So we're getting, we at Community Power Agency did a piece of work last year for a group in Gloucester. People been to Gloucester? You probably know they've been fighting both AGL's gas fields and now a new coal mine. That's been dividing the community. And so what they decided that they needed to do was something really positive, have a really positive vision. So we've worked with them to help them create a vision for a renewable powered Gloucester. It's called Re-Energise Gloucester. And now they're starting to develop their first projects. I think their first project is on the kindergarten, the community centre in Gloucester. So there'll be a solar array on there. So, there's a lot happening, but I think the two final things that I want to leave you with is to say it's not easy. Our energy system was set up for some really large coal-fired power stations built at a really long distance from where most of us live. Our energy system wasn't set up for democratically owned, decentralised, renewable energy sources. And so what we talk about is getting a community energy project to work is like solving a Rubik's Cube. And solving a Rubik's Cube if you're not really good at solving Rubik's Cubes. Everywhere you look, there's another challenge that you need to face. We kind of say there's death by 1,000 cuts. And that's why we at Community Power Agency have not only been proactive in supporting these community energy initiatives on the ground, but also saying we have to change the rules of the game because it's not a level playing field. So we've been running a campaign for the last year called the Smart Energy Communities Campaign, which is basically a campaign to get funding to support community energy groups. But also what we want to do is set up a series of what we're calling regional energy hubs. These are like centres of expertise to be able to support not just community energy groups, but farmers and Aboriginal communities and councils and small business and households to be able to navigate the complex process of doing energy efficiency and doing renewable energy. Because I don't know about you, but I don't trust my power company. And I don't actually know where to turn to for a source of trusted information about which solar panels I should get on my roof or which energy efficiency product to go with. So this policy is about trying, and this campaign is about trying to create those not-for-profit centres of expertise that you can trust. Because there's a sore lack of trust in our energy system right now. And if we're going to transform it as rapidly as climate change says we should, and need to, and as rapidly as technology is saying is going to happen, and as rapidly as all of us are starting to demand, then we're going to need some organisations that we can trust. So if you want to, we've been told that the policy that we've put, the Smart Energy Communities policy, is heading to Parliament, to the Cabinet tomorrow or early next week. So if you wanted to do one takeaway action from tonight, there probably will be more, head to our website, cpagency.org.au, and we've got an email action we'd love you to sign up to, because this movement is happening, but we can make it a lot easier and a lot harder if we change the rules of the game and actually make them fair. Thanks so much.